Discover the incredible moment a 9-year-old's touching sacrifice transforms a midnight emergency. Jake was more than just a typical 9-year-old boy, he was a bright spark in his suburban neighborhood, the kind of kid who could turn a mundane day into an adventure. With tousled hair and a constant grin, he wore a cape made from the last few threads of his favorite blanket, believing he could conquer anything. His mother, Sarah, worked tirelessly to provide for him, juggling jobs just to keep food on the table. She'd often come home exhausted, but Jake's laughter would fill their modest house, turning their little home into a haven of warmth and coziness. One fateful summer night, the air was thick with the smells of blooming flowers and that sweet satisfaction of teamwork as Jake played soccer in their backyard. He was lost in the game, kicking the ball with all his might when, suddenly, a faint thud echoed from next door. Mr. Thompson, the elderly veteran living alone beside them, had always been a quiet presence. That thud sent a shiver down Jake's spine. Jake's heart raced. He knew his mom was working late, and he couldn't wait for help that might take too long to arrive. Without a second thought, he sprinted towards Mr. Thompson's house. The world around him blurred, his focus narrowed. He knocked desperately on the Johnsons' door, the well-manicured lawn standing as a stark contrast to his panic. Mr. Johnson opened the door, squinting at the bright porch light. "What do you want, kid?" he said, annoyance creasing his brow. "I think Mr. Thompson needs help," Jake exclaimed, his voice echoing the urgency of the situation. Mr. Johnson hesitated. The weight of his own burdens held him back. "It's late, Jake. Can't it wait?" Jake felt a wave of frustration wash over him but couldn't give up. He scurried over to the Smiths, then the Wilsons, yet every time he was met with doubt. Each unhelpful response chipped away at his hope. Just when Jake felt like the world was closing in, he met the Martinez family. They were new to the neighborhood, with smiles brighter than their freshly painted front door. "You look worried, Niño. What's wrong?" Mrs. Martinez asked, her brow knitting with concern. "Mr. Thompson. He needs help," he shouted, desperation leaking into his voice. Their eyes met, and something clicked. Without a moment's hesitation, the Martinez family rallied their neighbors. One by one, the Johnsons and other families started to emerge, united by Jake's unyielding spirit. "Let us go help him," shouted Mr. Martinez, breaking the ice of indifference that had gripped the neighborhood for too long. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As they gathered by Mr. Thompson's front door, Jake felt a surge of hope. But doubt crept in, squeezing his heart as they all exchanged anxious glances. Had they waited too long? The minutes ticked by, heavy with guilt. They were scared, each grappling with their own fears and prejudices. But Jake inspired them to remember what truly mattered. The moment felt electric, like a storm ready to break. They needed to act. And just as the sirens wailed in the distance, Jake braced himself for the choice ahead. Together, would they rise to meet this challenge, or would the sense of community they forged tonight dissolve away once danger had passed? The weight of that decision hung in the midnight air, leaving everyone wondering, would they find their strength again? As the sirens drew closer, a wave of determination washed over the crowd. Jake stood at the front, feeling the energy shift. What had started as a simple plea had suddenly turned into a rallying cry. He could see fear etched on some faces, but also a flicker of courage beginning to spark. In the dim light, glimmers of new resolve emerged. "Let us break the door down," Jake shouted, his voice cutting through the tension. He couldn't help but feel a rush of adventure at the thought. This was more than just a rescue mission. It was a chance to prove that sometimes, all it took was a little bravery to help someone in need. Mr. Martinez nodded, his eyes shining with fierceness. "I'm with you, kid." Everyone pushed together on three. As they all gathered at the door, the weight of their collective strength felt palpable. 1, 2, 3. With a united heave, they crashed against the door. It buckled under the sudden pressure and swung open to reveal a darkened hallway beyond. "Mr. Thompson," Jake called, his heart thudding against his chest. They stepped into the house, the smell of dust and aged wood filling their noses. The silence hung heavily in the air, punctuated only by the sound of the distant sirens. "Check the living room," someone whispered urgently, the group now splitting up. Jake ran ahead, driven by instinct. He stumbled into the living room to find Mr. Thompson sprawled on the floor, his frail body seemingly trapped by a pile of old magazines. Jake quickly knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Mr. Thompson. Are you okay?" Jake's voice was shaky but firm. A pained groan escaped the old man's lips, stirring a mix of panic and relief in Jake. He could feel tears brimming in his eyes. "Help is here, don't worry." He heard footsteps rushing in behind him. The others gathered close, their initial hesitation now replaced by urgency. "We need to lift him," Mr. Martinez directed, and together they worked, gingerly pulling the magazines away before hoisting Mr. Thompson up. With every bit of strength, they lifted him gently, like he was more than just flesh and bone. He was their neighbor, their friend. As they moved him to the couch, Jake's heart swelled with a feeling he couldn't quite put into words. Suddenly, Mr. Thompson's eyes fluttered open. "Jake?" he croaked, his voice barely audible. "I'm here," Jake replied, overcome with relief. "We're going to take care of you." As Jake looked around, he realized something profound. The neighbors who once seemed so distant, had come together like family, united by a simple act of bravery. The sound of sirens grew louder as the paramedics finally arrived. The door swung open, and a group of first responders rushed in. "What happened?" one of them asked, taking in the sight of the assembled neighbors. "Mr. Thompson collapsed," Jake explained, breathless yet proud. "We heard him, and we helped." The medics nodded appreciatively, their eyes wide with gratitude at the sight of a community banding together. They quickly took over, assessing Mr. Thompson, but not before one of the paramedics leaned down to Jake. "Kid, you did good. You saved a life tonight." Jake felt his chest swell, feeling the recognition wash over him. It was what he had dreamed of, to be a hero. But there was more. He had ignited a spark within his neighborhood. As the medics worked, Jake glanced at the faces around him. Hope, relief, and even tearful joy were mirrored back at him. He felt a part of something bigger than himself. But more questions swirled in his mind. Would this bond last after the crisis was over? As the sirens faded into the background, another challenge loomed ahead. Could this group, forged in a moment of bravery, stand strong when the night fell quiet again? With uncertainty hanging in the air, he realized they might need one another now more than ever. The night was just beginning, and the community had only begun to find its strength. The paramedics worked swiftly, their hands moving with practiced efficiency as they attended to Mr. Thompson. Jake watched, still feeling the adrenaline pumping through his veins. He stood close to the action, heart beating faster every time he caught a glimpse of Mr. Thompson's frail body. No longer just the quiet man who lived next door, Mr. Thompson had become a symbol of their community's strength. "Is he going to be okay?" Jake finally asked, his voice trembling, fear piercing through the pride he had felt moments before. One of the medics turned to him, a reassuring smile lifting the corners of their lips. "We're doing everything we can, kid. You and your friends saved him a lot of trouble by getting here so fast." Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him, but it was short-lived. He scanned the room, the faces of his neighbors filled with concern. Some were wringing their hands, others whispered quiet prayers. The winds of uncertainty had shifted again, and he could feel the fear creeping back in. "Hey everyone." Mr. Martinez's voice cut through the noise. "Let us not just stand here. If we want to help Mr. Thompson, we can keep his spirits up. Who's got an idea?" A group murmur followed. "Maybe we can tell him stories," suggested a neighbor named Lisa. "He used to tell us about his time in the war. It always made us laugh." "Or sing," shouted another voice. The thought sparked laughter, mingling with the tension in the room. "Let us do both," Jake suggested suddenly, a thought igniting inside him. "Mr. Thompson loves to hear us talk. We should share some of our best moments with him." The tone shifted as the call to action resonated with the group. They began to share stories, laughter bubbling amidst their fears. Jake spoke up about the time he and his friends constructed a massive fort in the park, only to have it washed away in the rain. Everyone chuckled as he animatedly described the frantic gathering of blankets and cushions, the race against the downpour. The stories flowed freely, filling the room with warmth. The paramedics worked diligently, but now the air was lighter. Jake caught glimpses of Mr. Thompson's eyes. They flickered open for just a moment, glowing with hints of recognition as he listened to the laughter surrounding him. As minutes ticked by, an even more curious realization settled deep within Jake. This was more than just helping Mr. Thompson, it was about helping each other. The act of sharing joy, even amidst fear, was grounding. He could feel the collective spirit of the community growing strong, anchored by their connection solidified in the heart of a crisis. But just as hope danced in the air, a distant sound broke through their little bubble. It was screaming tires and shouts. Panic returned, dampening their momentary triumph. "That's the police," someone said nervously. "What's going on?" Jake's stomach dropped as they all turned toward the front room, just as another set of sirens joined the first. The air grew thick with uncertainty again, and Jake wondered if their moment of bravery could withstand this new wave of chaos heading their way. He took a deep breath, the weight of leadership settling comfortably on his small shoulders. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," he declared, trying to keep his voice steady. "Just like tonight." But would that resolve be enough when the real test arrived, and darkness once again threatened to swallow them whole? The shadows loomed long, and as everyone's eyes turned to the door, Jake realized that the real battle was just beginning. The front door burst open, and in rushed two police officers, their faces etched with urgency. They immediately assessed the scene, including the gathering crowd of neighbors and the stillness around Mr. Thompson. Jake held his breath, watching as the paramedics continued their work, but tension ricocheted around the room. "Please, everyone, can you step back?" One of the officers called out, his voice firm but not unkind. "We need space." Jake felt a clenching in his gut. The weight of the moment pressed down on him, thick as the smoke from a distant fire. Behind him, whispers twisted around the room, mixed with worried glances. He could see Mrs. Smith wringing her hands, her eyes wide with concern. Mr. Martinez clenched his jaw, his brow furrowed. "We need to know what's happening," Mrs. Smith finally murmured, almost to herself. "Stay calm, everyone," Jake shouted, squeezing his eyes shut briefly as he thought about Mr. Thompson. "Right now, they're doing everything they can for him. Let us not fall apart." A silence enveloped the room, the sound of Jake's voice echoing against the walls. He turned to face the officers, desperate to appear brave. "What's going on outside?" One of the officers exchanged a glance with his partner before stepping closer. "There's been a disturbance in the neighborhood mentioned in a call. We just want to ensure everyone is safe." "A disturbance?" The word sent a chill down Jake's spine. He glanced around the room, meeting the eyes of a few neighbors. Each one reflected the same unease. As they stood there, the atmosphere thickened with the unknown. More sirens, more shouts from outside. A feeling of helplessness washed over him again. Jake's heart raced again, pounding against his ribcage like a caged bird desperate to escape. We have to stay together, he insisted, feeling the weight of expectation settle heavier on those small shoulders. We've already faced a lot tonight. Mr. Thompson needs us. Suddenly, he felt a gentle hand on his shoulder. It was Lisa, her face soft but anxious. You're right, Jake, if we can make him smile, we can get through anything. Let us keep telling stories. Encouraged by her resolve, the rest of the neighbors began to nod, their spirits igniting anew. Reluctantly, Jake began to weave a tale of summer adventures with fireflies, attempting to anchor the group back towards the warmth they had found just moments before. The stories ignited laughter, though it was now laced with a tinge of nervousness. With every laugh, Jake felt a little less weight on his chest. They were all in this together. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from outside, abruptly slicing through their fragile moment. It sounded even more chaotic than before. Everyone froze. Jake's heart raced even faster. What was that? The officers exchanged a knowing glance. Stay right here, one said, and before anyone could protest, both officers sprinted towards the door. Jake, what do we do? Lisa whispered, her voice trembling. We keep talking, Jake replied, though he felt the meat of that statement teetering. We can't lose hope. And then, through the confusion, the unmistakable sound of distant shouting broke through the sirens. The rush of chaos mingled with an urge of urgency, and Jake felt a decision claw at him. What if he took the lead? Taking a deep breath, he prepared to shout out what was on his mind. Everyone, we can't let fear drown us. Let us show them what we're made of. Let us tell stories that make Mr. Thompson proud. Just as he spoke those words, a shadow moved in the doorway. Jake's breath caught in his throat. Hope and trepidation danced together. Was it a neighbor? Was it something worse? The moment stretched taut, ready to snap. What emerged next would change everything. In that heartbeat of silence, the shadow in the doorway stepped forward, and Jake's breath hitched in his throat. It wasn't a neighbor, nor anyone he recognized. It was a girl, maybe a little younger than him, her expression a mix of fear and determination. In her hands, she held a small white box, its contents hidden beneath a flimsy lid. The room seemed to hold its breath, curiosity intertwining with the tension that hung thick like fog. Who are you? Jake managed, his voice cracking slightly. The girl looked around, taking in the worried faces, and then her gaze landed firmly on Jake. I'm Mia, she said, her voice steady and surprisingly firm for someone so small. I came from across the street. I heard the noise and wanted to help. I brought something for Mr. Thompson. Jake blinked. Help? What could a girl her age possibly have that would help? But, sensing an urgency in her demeanor, he stepped closer. What do you have? Mia opened the box, revealing bright, colorful band-aids scattered inside, adorned with characters from popular cartoons. The sight sparked a tangible warmth in Jake's chest. I know Mr. Thompson loves these. He always tells me funny stories when I use them on my scrapes. I thought if he could have something to make him smile, it might help. For a moment, that simple gesture broke through the chaos swirling outside and the weight in Jake's heart. Someone was trying to do something good, no matter how small. It reminded him of the stories they had been telling, the moments of laughter that felt so fragile now. That's beautiful, Mia, he said, his voice steadying as he looked into her clear, determined eyes. We should show it to the paramedics. They'll know what to do. Around them, the neighbors began to murmur, some nodding, some smiling softly at that glimmer of hope. Just then, the police officers returned, their faces flushed with urgency. One of them waved Jake over urgently. Mia, stay close, Jake said, glancing back at her. As he approached the officers, he felt the adrenaline spike again. What's happening out there? It's nothing we need to worry about right now, the one officer replied, though his words felt too rehearsed, as if trying to soothe wild animals instead of a room full of anxious neighbors. We're taking control of the situation outside. Focus on each other for now. Jake nodded, but the words felt empty. He turned back to Mia, who was craning her neck to see past the officers as if waiting for a sign that everything would be okay. Mr. Thompson is a little scared. Just like in my stories, Mia said softly, kneeling down to place the box on the floor, her small hands smoothing over the scuffed wood. But we can be brave for him. The weight of her sincerity rang true, igniting a flicker of courage in Jake's heart. This little girl might just be right. Maybe they could all be brave together. As the paramedics finally emerged after what felt like ages, they had a new energy, a boost from the laughter and voices of the neighbors, supported by a tiny girl with a box of band-aids. "Let us get Mr. Thompson stabilized first," one said, eyes shining with determination. "The more hearts we have behind him, the stronger he'll be." The group of neighbors shuffled closer, a unified wish forming in their hearts as they caught a glimpse of Mr. Thompson being wheeled towards the ambulance. As fear gnawed at the edges of hope, Jake took Mia's hand, firm and small, and squeezed. "Whatever happens next," he began, the weight of his worry creeping into his voice, "we're going to face it together." But just as they steadied themselves, another loud crash echoed outside, sending shockwaves through their hearts once more. What now? Jake thought, the question echoing as the sound of shouting flared up again. They had faced so much tonight, yet this sounded so different. What if the real disturbance had yet to come? The loud crash echoed like thunder, jarring everyone from their fragile sense of hope. Jake's grip on Mia's hand tightened instinctively, his heart racing at the uncertainty swirling around them. The paramedics exchanged worried glances, while the police officers rushed back outside, their voices tinged with urgency. "Stay here," one of the officers instructed, his eyes scanning the room. "We need to assess the situation." Jake barely registered these words, his mind was already racing. What could be happening? Fear rippled through the group, and he could see it mirrored on the faces of his neighbors. Their earlier solidarity felt fragile, wavering under the strain of renewed chaos. "Mia," he said, kneeling down to her level. "Whatever it is, we have to stick together. Remember the stories? We'll be brave like the heroes." She nodded, determination lighting up her eyes. "I won't be scared, Jake. Not now." As the officers pushed through the door, the shouts outside grew louder. Someone yelled a name. Jake strained to hear, his heart thumping uncomfortably in his chest. "What did they say?" he whispered, looking at Mia, whose expression was now a blend of worry and resolve. Then, a chilling scream rang through the stillness of the night, slicing through the air like a knife. The neighbors froze, eyes wide, breaths held. Jake felt the blood drain from his face. He glanced back at Mia, who looked up at him, her small frame trembling slightly, but she stood firm. Her courage felt like a small shield against the impending dread. She was so brave, more than he could ever hope to be. Before he could speak, the officers returned, their faces grim. "Everyone, we need to move away from the windows," one officer commanded. "Stay low. It seems there's an active situation out here." Jake's mind raced. Was there danger? He steered Mia further back, trying to shield her with his own body. The room was shrinking as the walls seemed to close in on them. He could hear his own heart pounding, a chaotic drumbeat that matched the escalating tension outside. Another crash erupted, louder this time. The lights flickered precariously, plunging them into shadows. Moments felt like lifetimes, and fear pooled in the pit of Jake's stomach. He squeezed Mia's hand even tighter, trying to convey strength, to remind her that they were together in this. "Jake!" a neighbor called from the back of the room, her voice trembling. "What is going on? Should we call the police?" Just stay calm," Jake managed to say, though he felt anything but calm himself. Each new sound from outside felt like a countdown, stirring a storm of panic and uncertainty. They had faced so much already, but this was different. More potent. It felt wrong. Mia tugged at his sleeve, her small voice breaking through the chaos. We can't just sit here. We have to help Mr. Thompson. He's out there, Jake. What if he needs us? The urgency in her plea struck a chord deep within him. How could he let fear dictate their actions? Perhaps her little act of compassion with the band-aids was just the start. They needed that same bravery now. Okay, he said, his voice steadying. You're right, Mia. We can't just stand by. Together they moved closer to the door, the weight of their decision heavy in the air. The uncertainty pressed against them, but they were ready. Ready to face whatever lay beyond that door. As they pushed through the crowd of worried neighbors towards the entrance, another loud explosion of sound erupted, more ferocious than before. It was chaos, and it was coming for them. What awaited them outside? Would they find their neighbors still united, or would the night tear them apart? The door creaked open slowly, revealing the scene outside. The night air felt heavy with tension, thick with uncertainty. Jake and Mia took a cautious step into the chaos. The street was aglow with flashing lights, red, blue, and white, swirling like a storm. Emergency vehicles crowded the curb while shadows danced in the flickering beams. Stay close, Jake whispered to Mia, pulling her to his side. He could feel her small hand shaking in his grip, but she looked up at him, her eyes filled with determination. As they ventured beyond the threshold, all the noise collided with them, voices shouting commands, the whir of helicopter blades above, and the staccato crackle of police radios. The chaos was not just outside, it seeped into his mind, making it hard to think straight. Then he saw Mr. Thompson. The old man lay on the grass, his frail body still, surrounded by paramedics. Jake's heart sank. Mia. We have to go to him. The weight of her resolve sparkled in her gaze. But, Jake. What if it's dangerous? For a moment, doubt surfaced in his mind. What if they stepped into a situation they weren't prepared for? But then, the sight of Mr. Thompson struggling to breathe, each gasp a desperate plea for help, pushed Jake forward. We have to help, he replied, steadying his voice. You're brave, remember? With every step, shadows loomed larger, igniting a mixture of fear and urgency. Jake could feel a knot tighten in his stomach. The world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for a moment that could change everything. As they rushed closer, one of the officers shouted, "Everyone needs to move back. We have a situation here." The edge in his voice sent a ripple of fear through Jake. But there was no turning back now. Mia dashed ahead, unafraid. "Mr. Thompson. We're coming," she called out. Jake's heart swelled with admiration as he chased after her. Even among the chaos, her simple act of bravery illuminated the path. He reached Mr. Thompson just as a paramedic knelt by the old man, trying to stabilize him. "Mia, fetch some water," Jake commanded, remembering their small first aid kit back in the house. She didn't hesitate, racing towards their home even as the noises around them intensified. The paramedic looked up at Jake, concern etched on his face. "You should step back." "But he needs leave it to the professionals," the paramedic shot back, but there was a gentleness in his eyes that softened his urgency. Jake's chest tightened. Every instinct screamed for him to do something, but he felt powerless. All he could do was watch as the paramedic worked, the rhythm of urgency blending with the distant sirens piercing through the emotional haze. "Mia!" he shouted as she returned, water bottle in hand. She rushed over and handed it to him, her face a mask of determination. "Here!" she exclaimed. "We can help." Jake took the bottle, gripping it tightly. He handed it over to the paramedic, who accepted it with a grateful nod. Moments stretched on forever until finally, Mr. Thompson's eyes fluttered open slightly. "What's happening?" he croaked, his voice barely above a whisper. The paramedic breathed a sigh of relief. "You're safe, Mr. Thompson. Help is here." Mia knelt down beside the old man, her small hands resting gently on his arm. "You're going to be okay. We're with you." Jake's heart swelled as he realized how powerful her words were, her unwavering belief in hope radiating through the chaos around them. But just then, a loud explosion shattered the air, sending Jake's heart racing once more. The crowd gasped, eyes wide in disbelief. What was that? Someone cried out, panic rising. Jake turned, but Mia's grip on Mr. Thompson's hand tightened. "Don't worry, sir. We're not going anywhere." As the smoke billowed in the distance, Jake felt both a flicker of dread and a new flame of courage igniting within him. They had come this far together. There was more to face. What other secrets did the night hold, lurking just out of sight? The sharp crack of the explosion echoed in Jake's ears, reverberating like a drum in a silent hall. His heart raced as he instinctively turned back to watch the flickering flames and thick black smoke rising in the distance. It was as if the night had unleashed its fury, a jagged tear in the fabric of hope they had just begun to weave. "Mia!" he shouted, panic threading through his voice as he glanced back at her. But to his surprise, she remained rooted by Mr. Thompson's side, her small fingers gripping his hand tightly. "Jake, we can't leave him," she insisted, voice steady despite the chaos. The old man's face was pale, but he looked calmer now, perhaps grateful for the reassurance of the two brave kids. Jake felt a conflict stir inside him. What if something dangerous is coming? We need to get to safety. His mind raced, trying to find the right words to pull her away safely. "Maybe we can help more here," Mia countered, never letting go of Mr. Thompson's hand. Her determination sparked a flame of resolve within Jake. She was just a girl, but the strength she showed made him question his own fears. Around them, the crowd was increasingly anxious. The sound of people whispering, gasping, crying, it spiraled into a chorus of uncertainty. Officers shouted orders to keep the area secure. But Jake couldn't tear his gaze away from Mia. She gave Mr. Thompson a reassuring smile, as if they both understood something profound, maybe that true bravery wasn't the absence of fear, but the will to stay and fight for someone else despite it. "Okay," he finally said, finding his breath amidst the chaos. "Then we stay together. We'll make sure he's okay." The paramedic had shifted his focus to Mia now, an encouraging smile creeping onto his face. "You're doing great, kid. Just keep talking to him," he instructed. Mia nodded eagerly. "Mr. Thompson, you're strong. Remember when you told us about the time you climbed that mountain?" Her voice was bright, a flicker of normalcy in the tempest. But even as Mia spoke, the atmosphere shifted. More explosions erupted in the distance, and flames danced against the dark sky, illuminating not just the street but the flickering shadows of the people around them. Fear coursed through the air like electricity, and Jake sensed a growing urgency among the emergency responders. "We need a plan," Jake said, his protective instincts kicking in again. He took a deep breath to settle himself, feeling responsible to lead them through this storm. "If we stay put, they'll come for us. We have to keep him stable until help arrives." Mia nodded, tightly clutching Mr. Thompson's hand. "I want to let him go." Suddenly, someone yelled, "Get back! Shelter in place!" The weight in the officer's voice sent another wave of fear racing through the crowd. Chaos ensued as people stumbled, some running in every direction, others frozen by shock, but Jake stood firm, determination surging. "Okay, stay focused. Nobody's leaving." He reached for Mia's shoulder, feeling the warmth radiating through his fingertips. "We're together. We can do this." In that moment, beneath the shroud of fear and uncertainty, they were united. Then a harsh cry pierced the air, a woman, panicked in the throng, shouting for her child. Jake's heart lurched as he witnessed the desperation in her eyes. He felt something shift in him, as if drawn to that call for help. "Mia," he said urgently, "we can't," but before he could finish, she broke free from Mr. Thompson's side, her eyes fierce. "I'm going to help her." Jake's stomach dropped. "Mia, no." He lunged forward, but she was quick, determined to act. Anguish surged inside him as he chased after her, the weight of their promise pressing heavily on his chest. As Mia sprinted toward the woman, Jake realized they were about to face something far more challenging than they had ever imagined. The night wasn't finished with them just yet, and as they dove deeper into the madness, a question burned in Jake's mind: what would they uncover next, and would their courage be enough to see them through? Jake's heart pounded as he sprinted after Mia, every step heavy with dread and determination. The crackle of flames and the cries of fear surrounded them like a storm, but was drowned out by the singular clarity of their mission: the frantic mother searching for her child. "Mia! Wait!" he called, weaving through the chaos. People rushed past him, faces pale, eyes wide with terror. But Mia was resolute, her small body slicing through the clamor, focused on that piercing voice calling for help. Suddenly, a sharp explosion echoed closer, and the ground shook beneath him. Jake stumbled, his focus faltering for an instant. But the image of Mia, unwavering in her quest, reignited his speed. He was not going to let her do this alone. "Mia!" He pushed his way through the panicked crowd, and when he finally caught up, he found her kneeling next to the woman. The mother was frantic, tears streaming down her face, desperate. "Please, my son, he's lost. I can't find him," she cried, her voice breaking. "Mama!" A small voice echoed from a nearby alleyway. It was faint, but Jake recognized that tone, one filled with fear and confusion. Without thinking, he called out, "I hear him. Stay right here." Jake dashed toward the sound, weaving past debris and the frightened faces that seemed to blur together. In that moment, he was fueled by something stronger than fear: an urgent need to protect, to help. He rounded the corner and spotted a small figure crouched behind a dumpster, trembling. The boy couldn't have been more than 6, wide-eyed and shivering. "Hey, it's okay. I'm Jake," he said, kneeling down to the boy's level. "Your mom is looking for you. Can you come with me?" The boy hesitated, glancing back at the chaos with wide, fearful eyes. But what if there's an explosion? Jake's heart sank at the question. "I promise, I'll keep you safe. But you have to trust me. Your mom needs you." Slowly, the boy nodded, rising to his feet. Jake extended his hand, and the boy took it, the grip tiny but surprisingly strong. Together, they raced back around the alleyway, where Mia and the mother were waiting, hope etched across their faces. "Mama!" the boy shouted, breaking free from Jake's grip to run into his mother's arms. The woman fell to her knees, clutching her son tightly, sobs of relief pouring from her lips as she rocked him back and forth. Jake's chest swelled, watching the reunion unfold. Even in the midst of chaos, there was something beautiful about it. The mother's gratitude turned to Mia, who stood proudly at Jake's side, her eyes sparkling with determination. "You were amazing, Mia," Jake said, barely catching his breath. But the moment of hope was short-lived. An officer's voice rang out from nearby, cutting through the warmth they had just felt. "We're evacuating the area. Everyone needs to move." Jake felt the panic return. "We have to go." "But where?" he shouted over the noise. The urgency of the moment flooded back, reminding him that their journey was far from over. "Follow me," Mia yelled, her voice cutting over the noise. She started to lead the way through the throng, young and bold. Jake hesitated, torn between the impulse to protect little Mia and the crying mother he had just helped. "Stay with us," he shouted to the mother as she attempted to follow. "Keep your child close." But as Jake moved, he felt the familiar weight of uncertainty pressing against him. What lay ahead? Was there safety waiting for them, or would they plunge deeper into the heart of the storm? As they hurried into the crowd, Jake's thoughts were a swirl of anxiety and hope. They had succeeded in saving one life, but could they save themselves too? And then it hit him harder than any explosion. The next wave of danger was already forming around them, but he had no idea how to navigate through it. Would their courage hold, or would fear tear them apart when they needed each other the most? As they pushed on, he pushed the thought aside, feeling the urgency pulse in his veins. Survival wasn't just about safety, it was about sticking together. They had to find a way out before it was too late. Jake's heart raced as he sprinted after Mia, the tension in the air mixing with the smell of smoke and the sound of chaos that roared just outside. He focused on the small girl's determination. They were in this together, but the world felt heavier with every passing moment. The flickering flames illuminated the streets, casting shadows that danced like reminders of the chaos surrounding them. "Stay close!" Jake shouted, his voice breaking through the noise as he fought to keep up with her. They both felt the urgency of the moment, and with a swift glance, Jake could see the glimmer of fear in Mia's eyes mingling with a fierce resolve. They were still kids, but right then, they were warriors. As they darted through the jumble of people, Jake looked for a safe place. The cries of families echoed around them, a vivid reminder of what they were fighting for. Suddenly, he turned a corner and spotted a small group of officers working to cordon off the area, their features tense. He felt an uncertainty creep in again. What if we can't get through? Jake wondered, but before he could falter, he heard Mia's voice behind him. "Mr. Thompson's waiting for us," she exclaimed, pointing. There he was, being treated under the bright lights, still looking frail amid a backdrop of chaos but now surrounded by care. Jake's heart surged with hope. He's going to be all right, he thought. They had brought him help, but there were still more that needed saving. Just then, Jake's eyes met those of the crying mother he had helped. She was still searching the crowd, her fear palpable among the chaos. Jake stepped forward, ready to comfort her when a voice called out over the din, a child's voice. "Help!" It echoed, drawing them all towards the sound. "Jake! We have to go!" Mia shouted, pulling at his sleeve. The urgency in her tone made him pause and second-guess himself. But then he looked back to the mother. "You need to go," he urged her. "It's not safe here." "How can I leave him?" she cried, desperation in her voice. "Mia and I will help him," Jake promised, surprising himself with the conviction in his words. "You have to trust us." And with that, he turned, gripping Mia's hand tightly. "Let us move." They raced back toward the heart of the chaos, their lungs burning as they navigated through panicked adults, sirens, and shadows. Each step felt like a declaration, a pledge not just to the lives of the strangers around them, but to their own right to belong and to care. The crowd shifted like waves, and in the midst of it all, Jake felt small yet steadfast. When they reached the source of the cries, they found a little boy, terrified and clutching a toy truck, frozen in a doorway. Fear etched into his face mirrored their own. "It's okay," Jake called out, kneeling to match the boy's eye level. "We're here to help you." Mia crouched beside Jake, offering her gentle smile. "You're safe now. Your mom is looking for you." The boy looked uncertain, glancing back at the chaos behind him. Suddenly, the sounds of the explosions capitulated the air again, prompting Jake's heart to race. "Come on," he said, mustering everything he had to sound brave. "We'll take you to her." The boy hesitated but then slowly reached out and grabbed Jake's hand. Together, they ran through the chaotic maze, their feet pounding against the pavement like a tribal beat of defiance. When they finally spotted the mother again, she broke out in tears, sobs of relief bursting forth as she ran toward them. "Jake! Mia! You found him!" she cried, gathering her son into a tight embrace, wrapping them both in a coat of warmth. In that fleeting moment, everything felt right. The warmth of reunions and the rush of relief enveloped them like a protective blanket against the chaos outside, but it wasn't over yet. "We need to get everyone to safety," Jake reminded them, glancing back at the glowing chaos. "Can you walk?" he asked the boy, who nodded fervently. "Let us go," Mia said, her spirit igniting a fresh wave of adrenaline in Jake. Together, they moved methodically toward the exit, hearts beating as one, each step a promise of safety. As they emerged from the pandemonium, Jake and Mia locked eyes, their determination unwavering. "We can keep doing this," Jake said, more to himself than anything. Together. The chaos was still swirling behind them, but the faces of his neighbors began to look more familiar, their eyes tinged with gratitude and admiration. They were united now not just as neighbors but as a community forged through the flames. Each person became a pillar of strength. "Let us make sure Mr. Thompson and everyone else gets home safe," Jake called out, his voice cutting through the ambient chaos like a lighthouse beacon. "That's right," Mia echoed, pumping her tiny fist in the air, a brazen shine of unwavering promise on her face. As their community began to move as one, Jake felt a sense of belonging swell in his heart, deeper than just admiration. It was love. Love for his neighbor, love for those who were now intertwined in his life through a shared struggle. And just as they turned, the bright lights flashing in the night seemed to pause momentarily, illuminating the gathering hope. This was the moment they all transformed. The heroism hidden beneath notice suddenly surfaced, evidenced in every brave face around him. The storm that had threatened to ripple them apart instead reinvigorated an unbreakable bond. That night became a beacon, illuminating the real essence of community, a precious heart beating in unison through every difficulty. As they stood together, those flashes of light now seemed to twinkle like stars shining in the dark, whispering promises of a brighter tomorrow. And that's when Jake knew together, they could face anything. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support for heartwarming tales like this. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let us reach more people with our message of hope. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending below. And don't wait not even one more second, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.